probably don't want to do that. Finish off ready. Let's go. Okay,
Okay, keep hitting. Hit your heart. Hit your heart hard.
I don't want to hit my heart hard, like literally hit it.
No, not literally hit it. Make it happen, okay?
Let's make a second one down. There's my key.
Hi, Addie.
Hello. Wait,
Listen,
is my... No, okay. Can you hear me?
I can.
Marvelous.
I was enjoying your music.
Well, I forgot that I had it muted my microphone, and I was doing my heart practice.
It's okay. I felt like I'm going to require you to do a little music performance at the beginning of every call for me now.
Well, I am kind of multitasking today, so.
That is allowed. So how long have you been playing the harp?
Maybe 2.5 years.
And do you play any other instruments?
Yes, I play an Irish drum called a bodhrán, and I'm learning banjo.
Very cool.
Yes. Do you play any music?
I don't actually. My parents really tried to get both my brother and I to learn how to play the piano when we were young, but we both hated it, and so I never learned any music. I don't even know why. It might have been because he hated it and he was my older brother and I kind of did everything he did, but do I look really wide to you on my screen? My video's like stretching my face out.
Kind of a bit Harry Houdini-like, but it's not bad.
I don't know. I don't know why it's doing that, but oh well. I don't know where everyone is either.
4:31. Oh, I'm going to have to leave at 5 for Magic Club because I have Magic Club again.
Awesome. So, well, why don't we, because I want to make sure that, because I know the one question that you asked me was about which one of those prints you should hand in.
Yes.
So, since we're on here, we might as well just chat about that.
Wait, I have my favorite up here. Let me see if I can find it.
Okay.
I have my favorite up here, but I have to find it.
Hi, Jared and Parker. Addie, did you find it?
Not yet. I have to go dig a little deeper. Might be on Word too.
Parker and Addie and I were just talking about some of her work, and she's looking for a piece to show. And then we're going to be looking at the work that was sent in this week and just discussing it and hopefully addressing any problems or issues that people were having.
Okay,
All right.
I think I just found it.
Okay.
Okay, here goes. Well, what? No. Cancel. What? No. Screen share. Desktop. Almost there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes. So tell me, what about this one makes it your, well, actually, we'll clue Jared and Parker in, and we'll just end up starting with your piece, and I'll show some of your other pieces then. So why don't you start by telling us, Addie, a little bit about what your technique, your idea behind it, and then what we're working on figuring out.
Well, I took a printmaking class, and we were doing linoleum printmaking. So you use a nail to scrape your design into the not linoleum, the plexiglass, and then you cover it in ink and then wipe it off, and then you run it through the printing press. Mm-hmm. And I decided to do a telephone booth because they're very British, and it's not a police box though.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the really wonderful things about printmaking is the fact that once you have the plate done, you can try so many different techniques and colors and layering, and so it lets you kind of play with the same image over and over again, which is the good part. And then the bad part is you have to try and pick. You have to try and pick which one you actually like. So I know you sent me a whole bunch of them, and one of the questions that I asked you, just to kind of hear your opinion and see if you thought about it, was, is there something that made you decide particularly one on this image, as well as in only using one of the actual images? So sometimes, or really a lot of times, when you'll see prints or a lot of the work that like Andy Warhol did, he would put like many of the prints up against each other to all create one piece. Yeah. So
I tried that with my bike. The bike, the high wheels I sent you. But it was really hard to get them lined up because you put the plexiglass first and then the paper so you couldn't see where you were placing it. So it was terribly hard to get them to all line up without overlapping at all.
Gotcha. So let me, I'm going to flip my screen and share some of the other pieces. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So what I did was I pulled the ones that you sent and kind of put them in here. So one of the questions that Addie asked, and I didn't have a like immediate response to definitely this one, so we'll see if any of you do, was, so she has a couple of these prints, was which one do you think is the most successful, the most interesting? So these are the first two. Is this is the one, or which, I don't remember which one you actually chose. So this one probably is the most different because it has more of the kind of like rust reddish orange to it, and has slightly different mark up here.
I only see the Hangout screen.
Oh, that's not what we're going for. Oh, everybody sees the Hangout screen, and I'm, having a chat with myself. Let's try that again. Let's try this one. Okay. So, do you see your prints now?
Yes.
Okay. Much better. So now that you can actually see what I'm talking about, this whole conversation will make more sense. So these are two of them, and this is the one that I was talking about that I think is the most different from the others because it has this kind of rust red orange in it. It overlaps more, and then it has this different kind of empty corner up here. And then this is the third one. So what we're trying to decide, in your opinion, number 1, number 2, or number 3, which one you like the best. And I will say, I can't see anything you're typing because of how I had to share this screen today. So if you can talk, that will help me out, because if you're typing, I have no idea.
I am slightly partial to number 1 and then number 3.
And why is that?
Well, I really like the on number 1. I really liked how it came out of the press because the area that the light would be hitting was the one that I had accidentally cleaned away the most ink. And I also really like that dark smear on the windows.
Okay. And what do you like about number 3?
I like the black smear that kind of forms a curly Q on it.
Gotcha. And what do Jared and Parker, what do you guys think?
Well, I see there's many advantages in each artwork. The first artwork has a reddish hue that I explained, which has a old-fashioned taste. It has more texture and more color in the paint, as a personality of the reddish hues surrounding the telephone booth. But in photograph number 3, the third artwork, it also has an advantage since the white matches the window panes, which creates illumination inside the telephone booth, implying there's somebody there, or it's on during the night, which adds a comfy and this outer atmosphere which we do not see in the artwork.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how helpful we're going to be, Addie, because I think kind of as you brought up and as we were just talking about, I do think each one has its own powerful qualities. So I wouldn't, like, I really can't say that one is predominantly better than the other. So I think this is one of them that comes down to a little bit more personal taste. This one has a little bit more of a feel. It does start to remind me of like fire or danger, or like there's something really going on. This one's a little bit, I mean, it's calmer, but still mysterious and kind of eerie. So I think you could do either one of them.
Yes, I can try. I could try to collage them. Like,
yeah, I mean, and the other, that's part of it too. Like you can play with that on the computer of like putting them next to each other and seeing how does that actually look. So even though they weren't actually all printed on the same page, you can still arrange them into one overall piece. So you might want to play around with that too, and you can send those to me and see what we think, because I think it could actually look interesting of this one up against the edge of this one.
Okay, I can try it.
See what happens.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to jump up to the top of this. So this one is Kaylee's. Let me shrink it down a little bit so you're seeing the whole thing. And she, unfortunately, is super, super sick today. So she's not on the call, but she's going to listen to the recording, so we're still going to chat. On this piece, one of her goals was to use more negative space because it isn't something that she really pays attention to a lot when in her previous pieces. But her main question is, so while there is a lot of negative space, is there too much negative space? Or is there a way that it should be broken up that would make it more powerful or more effective?
Well, I believe the negative space played very well in this artwork. The candles at the bottom of the screen creates a more space in the artwork and implies there's endless darkness, which opposed if you put the candles in the center, it would have been weaker. But in this case, the negative space played a major role. To break up the space, I believe the artist could like put something and slightly off-center toward the left side of the painting, such as a face that is slightly illuminated by the candles, or anything that would balance the right side and the left side, so it would work well more compositionally.
Mm-hmm. That definitely could be something interesting, of having something that's really, really faded in the background, so it looks like it's farther away, that is just being lit up a little bit by the candles. Could be an interesting surprise as well. So that's a fun idea. Any other thoughts on this one?
I think that making the red a bit more asymmetrical instead of almost perfectly circular could, like, bringing it up and out a little bit more on, like, one edge.
Yeah. Yeah, so instead of this going perfectly around, kind of maybe it could flood over a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's one of those where, especially because, so the candles are placed nicely off-center and down in the corner, which does work well for this extra space, but it is something that it definitely could be stronger. So part of working with negative space is really thinking about how can you break up that space to make it even more powerful or more interesting. And so this definitely could have a little bit, but not very much, going on in it, so that it's not so even, and so that not all the weight's down here. So that could be one, having something slightly illuminated. It could be extending this outer glow in a different shape, or maybe one of the candle's flames is kind of like getting out of control and is bigger in size than the other ones, to play with proportion a little bit. That would also come up into this section. So I don't think there's a whole lot that needs to be changed, but just a little bit brought into it could be Interesting. Another thing that we can actually play with really quick with the joys of the computer are playing with different croppings and seeing how if you take some of the negative space away, how, how does that change things? All right, so we did Addie. Okay. Yeah, so these are the two details I brought up. So do you want to tell us a little bit about these pieces and share the questions that you had?
In this artwork, I had a debate whether which composition was more stronger, whether the right artwork with the close-up of the face was more overwhelming, captured the emotion that I wanted to present, or the circular framing of the left artwork. I was debating which one would be better to present to the board, the AP board, to see which one would be the most successful piece of my birth artwork.
Well, I'll let you guys talk and then I'll talk. So one, you can just comment on the pieces or ask questions if you have them. But the other thing, so the main thing trying to think about is which one of these compositions do you think is the strongest and why?
I like the one with the Van Gogh stream going up into the face.
So
the bigger one? Yes.
And why do you choose that one?
I like the lighter colors at the bottom going into the the dark colors of the face, and then you had the tie between the wheat colored gold in the bottom and then the wheat on the face.
I'm just looking, I'm popping, okay, so it's still just the three of us. That's fine. So I don't know if you guys have read my email yet or not, but one of the things that I recommended was that this might be a really good piece to send in as a quality piece, because then they can kind of get the vibe of both things. They can get really up close and personal with it, as well as this one has so much detail to it. And so part of the quality pieces are also informing the readers about the other work, the work that they're only seeing digitally. So sending in this where they're seeing all the intricate detail is also going to help to inform them that there's likely a whole lot of detail in your other work. And the thing is which you keep on killing me in a good way, is both croppings are really wonderful and really powerful in different ways. However, this whole piece is very strong, and so one, I would hate to see you crop all this beautiful detail out. And as Addie was saying, these different colors that are really vibrant flowing up into this are really beautiful and capture the eye. The whole piece is showing a lot more of how you were focusing on really creating movement by the way that you placed your marks, the direction that you placed your marks, where in this piece, while we can still see that your marks are really intentional, the overall movement and swirling feeling that they create gets a little bit lost. As well as you worked hard to deal with this oval oblong composition, which isn't easy to do, and you did it successfully. So again, in this cropping, you lose all the work you did to create this oval composition. So I think I would still recommend doing this whole piece and really considering this being one of, is this too big to send in? What size is this?
This is 18 by 24.
All right, so this is like perfect. You can't go any bigger than this to send in.
Okay.
I was like, oh no, I told him to go big, and now this one's not going to be able to send it. So this one, it could be a really good one for that, because it's a nice solid size. It's going to show all of the detail that you did, and they're going to be able to look at it super closely. So we'll make that final decision once you have everything done. But I would keep that in mind because I think that's a way to make sure that they see all the detail without having to crop everything out.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. So how long did this thing take you?
This took me about a little bit over 8 hours. Again, I only had time to do it at nighttime, so I had to do the piece. It had a lot of bumps on the road because I had no color for blue in my watercolor palette, so I
I
used
know I laughed when I
markers.
heard
I used
that.
markers after markers to get the effect I was looking for.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it worked out well, but I did laugh when you said you were out of blue in your watercolor palette. Um, how did you feel about working this size?
Well, I did have major challenges. In my smaller artworks, I was able to just um, I was able to paint it and just stand back just a little bit to see the whole artwork. But for this piece, I had to step several feet away to see the whole piece.
Hmm.
I had to constantly remove myself from being too close so I could see how each element works together rather than have individual separate worlds that are not linked to each other throughout the artwork.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't even see this before. I keep seeing new things when I look at it. These little guys that are just like trailing off and starting to jump in. All right. Let's see. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So Jared, if you want to tell us a little bit about your piece and the questions that you have.
Um, this artwork was it had a challenge of its own because of its really long composition. Originally I created a building at first that had that extreme perspective, but then I wanted to add personality, some characteristics to this building that I wanted my viewers to remember. So I added more darker shading. I also added cracks in the walls to give it more oldness and ominous feeling. But then at the very end, decided to do a swirling cloud at the top of the sky to create like an endlessness feel of tumultuous movement going a having a dark feeling throughout the artwork. It also the circling of the sky adds a characteristic to the building, making it more like has an evil connotation to it, which gives this piece its old-fashioned taste.
Awesome. So, Miss Abby, what's your favorite thing about this piece? Is she still here?
Yes, I am. My microphone was just muted. I like the detail cropping better because the window is amazing with the little face, and
Mm-hmm.
then that it looks the part that is going up, the window right there is really cool. And the plants look amazing because you can't see them in the big one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys keep doing so much detail. I want them all to be sent in, because there is some that gets lost digitally. The one thing I was writing in my comments, and I don't know if you did it intentionally or not, but the first thing that I thought of and saw when I opened this was this swirling cloud. Really reminds me, it just feels like these big arms that are like reaching out and grabbing everything, that start to give the building a human quality to it, which I find really intriguing. Was that intentional, or did that just happen, or maybe I'm just seeing things?
I find it really interesting that you thought of that. I actually got this inspiration of swirling clouds from the Edo, Japan's wood blocks. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yes, I could see that. I could see that.
Yeah,
The clouds kind of embrace the building, and going
yeah.
closer and closer as the building continues to spiral upward.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition because the building itself does look kind of mysterious and cold and dangerous and really not welcoming. And then the storm cloud, it looks like a storm cloud, but then it also looks like these like kind of reaching out, embracing arms. So I'm both of you are I like really enjoy both croppings for different reasons, so I'm probably not being incredibly helpful. I like this cropping for all the reasons that Addie was saying, that it really helps us see the wonderful details of the windows and these plants, which we don't see as much in this cropping. However, I think this whole piece shows a wider range and breadth because it's showing this really new perspective. It's showing a perspective that people don't deal with a lot, of the worm's eye view, partly because we don't look at things in that perspective a whole lot, so we tend not to be as comfortable dealing with it. So it's bringing that whole perspective piece into it, which I think is really important. So I think I would still recommend this whole finish piece being the one that you're submitting, because you're dealing with a new overall composition space of it being really tall and thin, as well as a different perspective, which we don't see quite as much in this one. And this could also be one that you might think about sending in, so that they can really pick up on all of the detail of the piece.
Okay.
Is there anything that you felt like you really struggled with while you were working on this?
Well, I think it was the perspective because while I was trying to do the grid lines and constructing the building, it was very strange how the building in itself kind of warps as it extends, and it kind of does this fisheye view at the bottom when you see the window. So that was a bit of a struggle.
So, what kind of things were you referencing when you were trying to figure out like what would this perspective really look like?
Well, I had to do some research on three-point perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It was something I wasn't really comfortable doing, and I wasn't really experimenting with. So this piece offered me the opportunity to explore the realms of perspective and push myself to convey a certain feeling through different perspectives, such as second point, first point perspective, second point perspective, and also third point perspective.
Yeah, good work. Okay, this one is Jessica's, which she didn't have any really specific questions or concerns that I'm remembering. So let's see, what should we discuss? So why don't you talk about how does your eye flow throughout this piece? So what's the first thing that captures your eye, and then where does your eye move throughout the piece?
The first thing I see is the really dark space where the bottom of the pan should be.
So this down here?
Yes. And then the really bright spot on the tea kettle.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bright spot on the one onion that's on top of the lid.
Okay. And what do you guys think is the most interesting thing about this piece? Or what would you love to see happen to it that you think would really capture your attention?
I think that mice would be kind of a cool addition to it.
That's an interesting idea, just to kind of bring like a little bit of a surprising thing in. Maybe if a mouse was popping its head into the competition. You could potentially think about like having a bite out of the apple or cutting it in half. That's not at all necessary, but sometimes, especially when you're dealing with food, that can be some new interesting ways to deal with it, of showing it not in its whole form. And I think, yeah, okay, so this one is RJ's. So what I want you to think about, based on reaching back into your memory of previous pieces that RJ's done, how do you think this one differs from those pieces? Or how do you think this is, what's one way that you think this is showing breadth?
I really think that it looks like one of Tony Dixer-Lazy's pieces, except his is like they're wearing Victorian clothes and in a outdoor backdrop, but it's kind of the same idea. But I think it looks. I think that the rabbit is kind of a new idea. That's really neat, and I like the green in the goat's eyes. But I think that the color tones look a bit like his breadth pieces.
Yeah, so I think the rabbit is definitely, this is something new, and the rabbit is looking more like his own character design, which is where we really want to get more into. So when you listen to this, RJ, I think you should play with this idea more of really bringing more of your own personality, your own ideas and things like that into the actual character design. If he was going to, so predominantly his pieces are digital, and occasionally when he's drawing them first and then taking them into the computer to add color. So if this piece was done in a different medium, what medium do you think it would be interesting to see it in, and how would that change or affect the look of the finished piece?
I think it would make a very cool watercolor.
And why do you think that?
Because he's very good with his color, like staying in a very realistic pose. And with watercolor, sometimes you don't have that freedom.
Yeah, so that might kind of change the overall vibe of it. Any other thoughts from Jared or Parker?
I think he should experiment with pastel and trying to add new colors into the work, and also has the freedom to experiment with how you press the pastel and smear it and blending colors in a whole new way.
Yeah, so that any of those things are automatically going to start to change the work a little bit because of how it goes down on the paper and how it reacts. So that would be a good way to start to bring some more breadth into the work, because the digital technique of how the pieces are being drawn and how colors being added is still really, really similar to what was happening in the concentration, and it's staying kind of consistent. So I would push yourself into a new medium, and sometimes that as well will then inform you of new ways to do it digitally, but make yourself kind of leave the comfort zone of digitally adding color and do it by hand. I'm gonna pop back. Okay, so Addie had to leave for Magic Camp. So I don't know if you guys got to go on the website yet or not. So this week, I was really feeling like a lot of people were kind of falling behind a little bit and feeling overwhelmed. So this week is super easy. This week is 100% just a catch-up week. So you'll see, which I don't think you guys really need to worry about right now. If you're reworking one of your concentration pieces, you can work on that this week. I think, because this was your third breadth piece that you both just turned in, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're one piece behind, which is okay. You're totally fine. You both went big and very detailed as usual. So you're really not behind at this point, because this is a catch-up week, and you don't really need to redo concentration pieces, at least not at this point. So you have this week to work on catching up on breadth piece number 4. So I just wanted to take a little moment, slow things down, get everybody caught up before everyone was feeling overwhelmed and just completely behind. So this week's easy. Okay?
Okay. All right. Parker and I are working on abstract
All
work.
right.
So is there any recommended artists for me and my brother to research on and try to gather inspiration to start our 4th breath piece?
Let me write myself a note, and I will shoot you some links or some images that I think you guys will like. All right? I'm excited to see you guys go abstract.
Yes.
Are you guys excited to go abstract?
Well, abstract it's more difficult because I kept doing realism in my past 3 concentration pieces. Oh wait, breath pieces, and then for the majority of my concentration pieces, I also did realism. So to bend my own rules against realism would be really difficult.
Yeah, and so where a lot of people struggle when they're doing abstract work is also knowing when to stop. Because when you're doing realistic work, it's a little bit easier to tell when to stop because you can be like, okay, it looks like a building, it looks like a person, and it gives you a little bit more information as to where you should put your marks and where you should put your lines and when you should actually stop. So one, if you're really feeling that as you're working on it and thinking, I don't know if it's finished or not, send me more in progress things than you normally do since you're really leaving your comfort zone on that.
Okay.
You want to, so abstract art, even though there's not a subject, meaning there's not necessarily something identifiable, what you want to think of if you're trying to deal with thinking compositionally, what is the subject? The subject is that thing that if you look at the piece, you close your eyes, open your eyes, it's the thing that catches your attention right away. So what your eye lands on first, think of that as your subject and work around that. I find that a lot of people kind of find that helpful when they're trying to build out the whole composition, as well as contrast. And you're going to, like, the elements of art are going to become your really good friends.
Okay.
So I would choose like 1 or 2 elements of art that you really want to focus on. So maybe you really want to deal with shape, or maybe you really want to deal with color, or you really want to deal with line. And working on, if you're going to deal with shape, how can you repeat that shape and then bring a little bit of contrast in?
Okay. That makes sense.
It is important to, like, when we think about abstract art, we kind of think for a brief moment that it's so freeing because you can just put anything on the canvas. And in some ways it is, but so that it doesn't just turn into like out of control chaos, it is helpful to beforehand kind of give yourself some really specific rules, and obviously you can break them once in a while, but to start with, like, these are the things that I'm working with to rein yourself in a little bit. Otherwise sometimes you end up just having like everything on the canvas.
Okay.
Okay, but I will also send you guys some images to look at and pull inspiration from as well.
Okay.
All right. And are you guys going big for abstract or small?
Yes. Well, one of my constraints is never to go small to 18 by 12 again, so I want to go back to small. I'd rather go smaller, like really small, or go really big, but it cannot be around 18 by 12 as I did my concentration pieces for a long time.
Okay. So do you know which direction you're going yet?
We're going big.
I'm going big still, just to experiment more with the size. I might choose it to be narrow or more wider for my composition, but it's still going to be 18 by 24 canvas.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Have a good week, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you all for today.
Yes.
Yeah, bye.